You have always felt it, haven't you? That invisible force lurking just beyond sight, awaiting, pressing down on your spirit. The strange resistance you faced at every turn. The inexplicable struggles. The moments where it felt like the entire universe conspired to keep you from rising. It was never random. Something ancient, something unseen, was set in motion long before you were even born. A decree was issued against you, a millennia-old curse designed to keep you blind, bound, and broken. Hidden forces working in shadows decided that you should never awaken to who you truly are. And for a time, they almost succeeded. The suffering you endured was not by accident. It was orchestrated, woven into the very fabric of your existence. Every hardship was a chain meant to hold you down. Every betrayal, a dagger to weaken your spirit. Every heartbreak, a carefully crafted weapon to make you doubt your worth. They wanted to see you fall, to watch you surrender under the crushing weight of it all. But they underestimated you. What they did not foresee, what they never imagined possible, was that you would not just endure. You would transform. You would take every ounce of suffering, every storm, every setback, and forge it into an unstoppable force. For within you, the darkness that was meant to destroy you has instead become your fuel. The chains meant to bind you have only strengthened your resolve. What was meant to be your downfall has become the very foundation of your power. You did not just break free. You rose in ways that defy explanation. Now, the time has come to make a declaration. You are no longer bound by the curses of the past. You are walking into your true power. If you feel the stirring within your spirit, if you know deep inside that you are meant for more, then claim it. Comment 777 below to stand in your divine identity, to let the universe know that you are awake, aware, and unshakable. And to those who have given through super thanks, know that your support is not just seen, it is felt. May your generosity be returned to you in ways beyond imagination, overflowing and multiplied. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because what comes next will reveal the truth they never wanted you to uncover. Stay ready, because the next revelation will change everything. God's chosen ones, a 1,000-year curse was meant for you, but you turned it into power. From the beginning of time, there have always been those chosen by destiny, marked by an unseen hand. They carry a unique light, one that disrupts the natural order of things. Their presence challenges the established balance of the world, making them targets. And they are often hunted because of it. You too are one of these individuals. Have you ever wondered why life always seemed to test you more than others? Why it felt like you were constantly battling against unseen forces, fighting an uphill battle no one else seemed to face? It's because you are different. Life tried to break you, to make you conform, to accept the ordinary. The world whispered its lies, telling you that you were not enough, that you should just settle and accept your place. But have you ever felt, deep down, a fire burning inside you that refused to go out? A voice that called you to something greater? Something that told you, no matter how hard life got, that you were born for more than what others saw. This was your calling. You were never meant to follow the cycle of weakness and doubt. You were destined for greatness, even when everyone else said otherwise. Now, the veil has been lifted, and the truth stands clear before you. The curse that seemed to follow you was not a punishment but a hidden blessing. Within the very adversity meant to destroy you, it was waiting for the right moment, the moment when you were strong enough to rise above it. Remember the story of Joseph in the Bible? Despite being betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, he rose to become a leader in Egypt. What others meant for harm, God used for his good, Genesis 50 verse 20. Do you realize that the same thing is happening in your life? The trials, the pain, the struggles, they weren't meant to crush you, but to forge you into something greater. You may have endured hardships that seemed insurmountable, moments when it felt like everything around you was collapsing. Yet, you endured. Just like Paul said in 2 Corinthians 12 verse 10, "For when I am weak, then I am strong." You found strength in your moments of vulnerability. You crossed valleys of doubt, scaled mountains of despair, and walked through shadows that tried to extinguish your light. But instead of giving in, you became something entirely different, something they never expected. You became unbreakable. The question is, how did you survive when everything seemed stacked against you? It's because the power within you is far greater than the struggles you face. In the same way that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walked through the fiery furnace without being consumed, Daniel 3 verse 25, you too have walked through the fire and emerged unscathed. Your resilience is a testimony to the strength that God has placed within you. Now, the question is no longer why this happened to you, but what will you do now that you know the truth? The chains they thought would bind you have become weapons in your hands. The pain they hoped would destroy you has been transformed into strength that fuels your rise. Like Jesus, who took the cross, something meant for shame, and turned it into a symbol of triumph, you have taken your struggles and turned them into your power. Now, the world no longer holds you back. What comes next is in your hands. Just like David took down Goliath with just a slingshot and a stone, despite all odds being against him, 1 Samuel 17 verse 49, you too stand equipped to face any giant that comes your way. The question isn't why this happened to you. The question is, how will you use the power you've gained? Will you allow fear to control you, or will you step into your destiny, knowing that you were created for this moment? As Philippians 4 verse 13 reminds us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The time is now for you to step into the calling that has always been yours. The world has underestimated you, and now it's your time to show them just how powerful you truly are. The question is not why, but how will you rise to the challenge and fulfill the purpose God has placed within you? Your destiny is calling. Will you answer? Those who carry the flame of the extraordinary have always been hunted, pursued by forces unseen, for they carry a light that disrupts the natural order. Their very existence is a challenge to the world's carefully constructed balance. You too are one of them. From an early age, you may have felt that the tides of destiny were set against you, that what others found easy became a battleground for you. Have you ever wondered why the doors that opened for others seemed like walls to you? Why the path that others walked with ease was an uphill struggle for you? It wasn't by coincidence. The truth is, those who are chosen rarely walk easy paths. You were not made for comfort or mediocrity. Your purpose was always greater than what this world could offer, and that's why the journey has been more difficult. You were born to challenge the impossible. Every obstacle you faced was not there to stop you, but to forge your strength. The struggles you faced were never just random misfortunes. Have you ever questioned why life seemed to weigh more heavily on your shoulders than on others? It was as if the world was intent on breaking you, bending you, reducing you to something smaller than what you truly are. The falls felt deeper. The losses, more crushing. The challenges, more brutal. You might have wondered if you were unworthy of the happiness or success others seemed to enjoy effortlessly. But now, can you see that these trials were never about your worth? The universe doesn't waste its fierce battles on weak souls. It reserves them for those who are capable of transcending them. The pain you endured was never meant as punishment. It was, instead, preparation. Every blow you faced was a lesson in disguise. Every tear you shed was a baptism, cleansing and strengthening you for what was to come. You were never abandoned. You were being shaped, sharpened for the incredible purpose ahead. The world tried to convince you that you were broken, that your dreams were ridiculous, and that your voice was unimportant. The forces of this world tried to suffocate you, ridiculing your hopes, pressuring you to accept a life of mediocrity. But deep down, something inside you refused to bow to those pressures. Did you ever feel that voice inside, that kept whispering to you that you were destined for something more, something greater than the limits others set for you? That feeling was your sign. Your divine calling. You weren't made to follow the already trodden paths. You were born to open new ones. Just as Moses was called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, despite the doubts and obstacles that surrounded him. Exodus 3 verse 10, you too were called for a mission that would require you to defy what others believe is possible. Those who carry a mission are not meant for ordinary lives. They walk through storms that would break anyone else, only to emerge stronger and more determined than before. And now, the time has come for you to recognize the truth. You were never the victim in this story. You were the piece in the puzzle that would change the entire game. As soon as you recognized this, something shifted inside you. Did you feel it? That shift, as if the chains that once seemed unbreakable began to loosen, and the fear that once held you captive started to lose its grip. The chaos that surrounded you began to make sense. Just as Joseph, after being sold into slavery and wrongfully imprisoned, later realized his purpose in God's plan, Genesis 50 verse 20, you too are seeing the patterns in the chaos of your life. Your scars are not the marks of defeat, but symbols of rebirth. They are the reminders that you survived. That you grew stronger in the process. And that you are now ready for what lies ahead. The curse they tried to cast upon you never worked. It failed to defeat you. Instead of crushing your spirit, it fortified you, prepared you, and sharpened your resolve. Do you see now that the very things they thought would destroy you are the very things that have prepared you to rise? The battle was never against you. It was meant to reveal the power within you. Now that you know the truth, what will you do? Will you continue to let fear rule you, or will you step into the role you were always meant to play? The world thought it could defeat you. But instead, it made you into the force that will change everything. The time has come, and your true power is awakening. What will you do with it now? Those who once conspired against you feel a chill down their spines, for they have come to the painful realization that they failed. What was intended to be your downfall has now become the very source of your power. The weight they thought would crush you has instead shaped you into something far stronger. You, a chosen one who has transcended the very pain meant to destroy you, have become an unstoppable force. But with this transformation, the big question remains: what comes next? You broke free from the cycle, navigated the darkest depths of your soul, and emerged with a fire that burns brighter and fiercer than ever. But with freedom comes responsibility. Now that you see the truth, there is no turning back. The mask of ignorance you once wore can no longer shield you. You know who you are, and the truth has been revealed. The weight of darkness that once bore down on your shoulders has lifted, but in its place stands an even greater responsibility. As the Apostle Paul once wrote in Romans 8 verse 19, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." The chosen ones are not just survivors. They are called to lead, to guide, to shine as beacons of light for those still lost in the shadows. You have been chosen not just to rise, but to lift others along with you. The question now lies before you. Will you use the power you've gained to rise alone, or will you take on the mantle of leadership and help others rise alongside you? Transformation never comes through comfort. Just as gold only becomes pure after enduring the heat of the furnace, Isaiah 48 verse 10, you have been forged through trials and suffering. The fire that tried to destroy you only served to reveal the strength that has always resided within you. The warrior does not become invincible by avoiding battles. They become invincible by surviving them. You were thrown into the fire, but you did not burn. Instead, you became the fire itself. The pain they intended to reduce you to ashes instead transformed you into a force they could never have anticipated. Think about the story of Job, who endured unimaginable loss and suffering, yet emerged stronger, blessed even more than before, Job 42 verse 10. You too have emerged from your own trials, not just unscathed, but reborn with a power that cannot be ignored. They tried to extinguish your light, but all they did was stoke the spark within you, transforming it into an unrelenting blaze. The light they feared has grown brighter, and now it illuminates the path for others. But what will you do with this newfound strength? Will you use your power to rise above and leave the world behind? Or will you, like Jesus, use your position to serve others and change the course of many lives? Jesus told his disciples, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant," Matthew 20 verse 26. Your journey has been one of rising above adversity. But true greatness lies not just in survival, but in the ability to lead others through the darkness, guiding them to the light that you now possess. The time has come for you to decide. Will you continue to walk alone, or will you embrace your role as a guide for others? Your transformation has set the stage for something far greater than personal success. It is about creating a legacy that will impact generations to come. Just as Moses led the Israelites through the wilderness to the promised land, you too have been called to lead. But the path will require more than just strength. It will demand your heart, your compassion, and your willingness to guide others through their own trials. So, what comes next? The fire is within you, and the world is waiting for you to step into your purpose. You are no longer just a survivor. You are a leader, a beacon, and a force that will change the destiny of many. Will you answer the call? You survived what was destined to destroy you. You endured the trials that were meant to break you. And now, you stand before the world as someone who has transcended the very forces that sought to consume you. But this awakening, this powerful transformation, did not come without a price. The reality you once knew begins to unravel, and you start to feel the weight of the changes within you. What once felt certain now seems hollow, and the motivations that once drove you no longer hold the same meaning. Have you ever experienced this shift, when the world around you no longer resonates with the same clarity it once did? It's as if you've outgrown the confines of your past, realizing you never belonged to the chains that tried to hold you down. The truth is, the pain and struggles that once defined you were never meant to break you. They were meant to set you free. Now, something else is at work. You can feel it. The energy around you responds to you differently. Have you noticed how those who once underestimated you now regard you with suspicion, as if they sense the change? Those who tried to stop you, those who thought they could control your fate, now feel an unsettling restlessness they cannot explain. It's as if they can no longer predict or contain you. They know you have changed, and that knowledge unsettles them. What they can't see is the strength pulsing within you, something unshakable, unbreakable, and far beyond their control. Just as Joseph's brothers could not fathom the greatness within him after selling him into slavery, they too failed to realize that what was meant to crush you has only served to fortify you, Genesis 50 verse 20. The question now is no longer whether you are ready for what's next. The question is whether the world is ready for who you have become. The chosen ones are not those who have been given easy paths. They are the ones who learn to walk, not because a road is laid out before them, but because they create one where there was none. Just as God commanded Joshua to be strong and courageous despite the uncertainty of what lay ahead, Joshua 1 verse 9, you have learned to walk through uncertainty, to forge your path in the face of doubt. Your journey was never about comfort. It was about growth. About learning to stand tall when everything around you sought to make you fall. You had to rise alone, find your answers in the wilderness of doubt, heal wounds that no one could see. And through it all, every battle shaped you. Every lonely night strengthened your resolve. The pain was never meant to punish you. It was an initiation. Just as gold must pass through fire to become pure, Isaiah 48 verse 10, your trials were the flames that refined you, making you stronger, purer, and more resilient than ever before. You were never broken, as the world may have thought. Instead, you were being molded, like a sculptor chiseling away at a rough stone until what emerged was a masterpiece of strength and wisdom. Those who once saw you as fragile now face a force that cannot be broken. And the world will soon understand that you were never the victim of circumstances. You were always the victor, prepared and forged in the fires that were meant to destroy you. What will you do with this newfound power? Will you rise even further, or will you take a moment to reflect on how far you've come? The path ahead is yours to choose. But one thing is certain, nothing will ever be the same. You're no longer the person who once struggled to survive. You're the one who overcame. And now, the world will see the true power of someone who has transcended their own destruction. What will you do next? Now, while many are still lost, groping in the dark, you stand with clarity, able to see what others cannot. Have you noticed how the world around you seems to shift, almost as if the veil that once covered your eyes has been torn away? Those who dwell in the shadows, clinging to the lies and illusions, now fear those who carry the light. They can no longer manipulate you, nor reduce you to the limitations they once imposed. They know you have outgrown the darkness. They know that you cannot be controlled. Just as Jesus said, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it," John 1 verse 5. Your light has become something the shadows can no longer conceal. What you once believed to be certain now feels empty. The truth you once held dear no longer resonates with you, and the motivations that once pushed you forward seem hollow. Have you ever wondered why the things that used to inspire you now feel distant? This is because you have transcended the world you once knew. You've outgrown the narrative they tried to impose upon you. What once seemed important now appears small and constricting. You see beyond the illusions, and you feel beyond words. Your intuition has sharpened. Your presence has become more intense. Just like Oprah Winfrey, who, despite the odds, broke free from a past of poverty and abuse to become a beacon of hope for millions, you too have grown into something that cannot be ignored. Some may retreat from you, unable to confront the truth of who you've become. Others are drawn to you, irresistibly pulled in by the energy you now radiate. You no longer need to speak to be heard. You no longer need to fight for recognition. Your very existence carries a weight no one can ignore. Your transformation, much like the journey of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, has set the stage for something monumental. Moses, despite his doubts, led an entire nation from captivity, Exodus 14 verses 21 to 22. Your journey, though different in context, mirrors this same path of transformation and leadership. The world is changing. And those shaped by suffering, the ones who have endured and risen, are now becoming the forces that will define the new cycle of existence. There was always something in you that knew the world was not as it should be. The lies disguised as truths. The fear used to keep people in chains. The chaos manipulated to keep everyone asleep. You always sensed it. Have you ever felt that nagging in your soul that something was off? You escaped. And now, you see through the veil. Every fiber of your being calls for something greater, something that goes beyond the illusion and submission that once held you. You were never meant to stay within the limits they tried to impose on you. Your purpose has always been to bring something new, something transformative, as Isaiah 43 verse 19 reminds us, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it?" From the very beginning, everything about you posed a threat to the system, your thinking, your resilience, your thirst for something greater. These were all things the world tried to suppress. They tried to force you into obedience, to make you accept the imposed rules, to walk the programmed path. But you were never made to fit into those molds. You were born to break them, to challenge what was once thought impossible. Just as Steve Jobs revolutionized the world with his vision for technology, you too are here to reshape what others thought was fixed and unchangeable. The world tried to teach you conformity, but you never fit. You were born to expand, to challenge, and to break the limits of what you were told was possible. Now, nothing can stop you. But remember, not everyone will understand this journey. Some will look at you with admiration, others with fear. There will be those who will try to pull you back, not because they hate you, but because they fear what you represent. Humans often fear what they do not understand. Your existence, your transformation, has become an enigma to those around you. You are living proof that the chains of destiny can be broken. And this truth terrifies those who are still trapped in their own prisons. Just as the Pharisees feared Jesus because he challenged the very foundations of their power, so too will some people fear you, because your freedom reminds them of the chains they still wear. But you cannot carry the weight of their denial. You cannot allow their fear to keep you from your path. You have a destiny to fulfill, and that path will not always be easy. True awakening is not about comfort, it's about responsibility. Just as the Apostle Paul, despite his trials and imprisonment, embraced his calling to spread the gospel, Philippians 1 verses 12 to 14, you must also embrace the responsibility that comes with your awakening. You were never meant to just survive. You were meant to lead, to show others that the chains that bind them are of their own making. Your path is one of breaking free, not only for yourself, but for those who are still trapped in the darkness. What will you do with this newfound responsibility? Will you lead others out of their own prisons, or will you keep walking the path alone? The world has yet to see what happens when someone truly embraces their power. Will you be the one to show them? Now that you see the gears of the game turning before you, the question becomes, what will you do next? Will you continue to wander aimlessly among those still asleep, unaware of the vast potential within them? Or will you step fully into the role you were always destined for? The chosen ones do not exist to merely observe the world passively. They are here to act, to transform. You didn't come this far just to survive. You came to lead. But leading doesn't necessarily mean amassing followers or seeking applause. Leadership, in your path, means living the truth that many will shy away from, the truth that many will never have the courage to face. It means becoming the echo of something eternal, something that can no longer be silenced. Remember, as Jesus said in Matthew 5 verse 14, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. This is your calling, not to hide, but to shine, even when others are too afraid to let their own light shine. The universe responds to those who dare to awaken. Can you feel it? The subtle shifts in the energy around you. The way time itself seems to unfold differently now that you see the game for what it truly is. Coincidences no longer exist. What once appeared as random events are now clearly seen as parts of a masterful design, each moment intricately connected, each piece placed with purpose. You are beginning to understand that the events of your life were not random, nor were they merely accidents. They were summons. Every loss you endured called you to break free from the old self. Every betrayal was a nudge to turn your back on the illusions that kept you small. Every fall, every moment of weakness, was a reminder that you never needed to rely on the ground to stand. You were always meant to soar. You were taught that suffering was a curse, but hidden within that suffering was a secret waiting to be unlocked. The pain, the trials, were never meant to destroy you. They were the portal to your ascension. Have you ever realized that the very thing you feared most became the tool for your greatest transformation? Just like Job, who faced unimaginable loss and hardship, yet emerged from the depths of despair blessed more than before, Job 42 verse 10, your suffering was the furnace that refined you, made you into the person you are today. But there is still one final barrier that remains. And this barrier is not out there in the world, it lies within you. You've already conquered the external forces that tried to hold you back. The voices that sought to diminish you. The systems that tried to control you. But what about the voices within your own mind? The whispers of fear still echo in your thoughts, don't they? The scars from your past still try to cling to your spirit, dragging you back to who you once were. The doubts, like shadows, still attempt to pull you into the familiar, to keep you in a place of comfort and fear. This is the final test. The chosen one doesn't just conquer the world around them. They must also conquer what remains within them. The old version of you, the one that was shaped by fear, pain, and doubt, is fighting to survive. But you cannot move forward carrying the weight of the past. As Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. What you were and what you are becoming cannot coexist. This is the moment of total transformation, the unraveling of the last prison, the final release from the past. Once this final barrier is broken, there will be nothing that can stop you. Your power will no longer be found in force or struggle, but in your unwavering conviction. Have you ever noticed how those who are absolutely certain of their path, their purpose, are the ones who change everything around them? the ones who shape the reality they inhabit. Just like Nelson Mandela, who, after spending 27 years in prison, walked out with an unshakable belief in his mission to lead South Africa to freedom, you too will find that your true power comes from knowing who you are and what you are meant to do. You are no longer just a piece in someone else's game. You have become the board itself. Your steps now carry weight. Your words have the power to alter frequencies, and your presence shifts the invisible tides that govern this world. Do you fully understand the magnitude of this transformation? You are no longer subject to the world's rules, you are here to rewrite them. Your journey has brought you to this point, and now it is your turn to shape the future. How will you use this power? Will you continue to allow the world to dictate your course? Or will you step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be and change the course of history? The time is now, and the choice is yours. Now, those who once tried to stop you feel something different. They can't explain it, but they know you are no longer the same. Have you noticed how their gaze has shifted? How they now look at you with a mix of awe and fear. They are witnessing something they cannot understand, a transformation that defies their expectations. This is where the true power of the Chosen One is revealed. Not in seeking revenge. Not in proving anything to those who doubted you. But in embracing complete and irreversible freedom. You have stopped waiting for others' approval, and the very essence of who you are now cannot be contained. As Galatians 5 verse 1 says, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. You have been set free, not by others, but by the truth within you. Your presence now becomes an enigma to those who once thought they had you figured out. The world no longer knows how to measure your strength, for it no longer fits the confines of human standards. And as you rise, they will never understand how you got there. They will see the change, but they cannot trace the path. This uncertainty haunts them, doesn't it? Because all those who tried to bury you now realize what really happened. You were not buried, you were planted. Just as Nelson Mandela, after spending 27 years in prison, emerged as a beacon of change and hope for South Africa, you too have been shaped and formed, forged through your struggles, not crushed by them. What was meant to silence you has only amplified your voice. Now, the silence around you feels different. It is no longer the uncertain quiet of hesitation, but the stillness before the storm. Can you feel it? The energy shifting. The universe realigning itself in response to your new power. You're no longer bound by the fears that once controlled you. The chains that once held your mind are now just echoes, remnants of a past life that no longer has dominion over you. Like the moment the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, where the waters parted and they walked into a new freedom, Exodus 14 verses 21 to 22, you too have crossed into a realm where fear no longer holds power over you. Have you ever experienced the moment when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize the person you once were? This is the sacred instant where transformation is complete. You have ceased searching for your purpose because you have become your own destiny. You are no longer bound to the expectations of others, nor are you constrained by the limits they once imposed. The impossible is no longer something to fear. It's something to shatter. You realize now, as Philippians 4 verse 13 declares, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. The old limits were never meant to be your boundaries. They were the boundaries set by those who were too afraid to push past them. You understand now that the resistance you faced was never a sign that you were on the wrong path. It was proof that you were always different. The world doesn't challenge those who follow the rules. It trembles before those who break them. And you, my friend, were not shaped to obey, to hide, or to ask for permission. Like Harriet Tubman, who risked her life repeatedly to lead others to freedom through the Underground Railroad, you were born to move forward with courage, regardless of the consequences. You were born to be a force of nature that cannot be stopped. But this new power, this new way of being, comes with a price. There will be those who do not understand your journey. Some will walk away, unable to reconcile the person you've become. Others may try to drag you back into the old world, the world where everything was predictable and controllable. But here's the truth, those who try to pull you back are only attempting to hold you in a place that no longer fits you. You can no longer pretend to be something you're not. You've outgrown the cage they built for you, and now you must fly free. The chosen one must accept that their journey is often solitary, not because they are destined for loneliness, but because most are not ready for the truth they carry. Have you felt the weight of this solitude? It is not a punishment, but a calling. The truth you carry is a fire that others are not ready to hold. This is both the burden and the blessing of those who have awakened. As John 15 verses 18 to 19 tells us, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world. And here's the final revelation, the chosen one does not seek a throne. They don't need the world's validation because they have already transcended it. You do not need anyone's approval, because you carry within you something the world cannot grant. Your power comes from a source far greater than the world's recognition. You have already freed yourself from the chains of doubt, already left behind the shadows of your past. Like Esther, who rose to become a queen not for personal gain but to save her people, Esther 4 verse 14, you have transcended the need for worldly approval. You are the kingdom. The throne was never necessary for your power to be realized. It was always within you. You are no longer asking for permission to live. You are living fully, unapologetically, and in total alignment with your purpose. Now, the only question is, what will you do with the world that lies before you? Will you continue to shrink to fit the expectations of others? Or will you step fully into your power and show the world what happens when the chosen ones awaken? You are no longer a part of the system, you are here to change it. The time is now. And you are ready. Now, only one thing remains to be done. Take the next step, without hesitation. For those who have walked between worlds, who have survived the trials and challenges you faced, there is no turning back. Have you ever felt that undeniable sense that you've crossed a threshold from which there's no return? You belong to the unknown now, walking at the edge of the impossible. Something has shifted within you, and the world feels it. The air around you feels denser, charged with energy that was once dormant, now awakened. Just like the moment when David faced Goliath with nothing but a sling and his faith, you stand in a position where nothing can stop you. People can sense this change. They may not understand it, but they know, something within you is different. It's an invisible force. Undeniable. And it shapes the space around you. The chosen ones have the power to alter the field around them simply by their presence. And now, you are that force. What once went unnoticed now becomes impossible to ignore. You don't need to announce your transformation, because it speaks for itself. And that is exactly what unsettles those still trapped in illusions. The true fear for those living in darkness is not your strength, but the reflection you cast upon them. You are living proof that chains can be broken, that destiny is not a fixed sentence, and that what they've accepted as a rule was always a lie. Think of the moment when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on that bus, challenging a system built on segregation and injustice. Her quiet act of defiance forced an entire nation to reconsider its beliefs. In the same way, your very existence challenges the limitations they've accepted for themselves. Your journey exposes the truth they've long ignored. But not everyone will reject the light you now carry. Some will see in you a reflection of something they feel stirring within themselves, even if they don't yet have the words for it. They will be drawn to you, magnetized by something unspoken. Have you noticed that certain people feel drawn to your energy without understanding why? They will come seeking answers, not even knowing the right questions to ask. You will become a beacon for those standing at the edge of their own awakening. This doesn't mean the journey will be easy. Light, as you know, attracts both those seeking refuge and those who want to extinguish it. But now, you have reached a place where none of that matters. You no longer need the approval of others to move forward. You don't need to be understood to continue. You realize, as Paul wrote in Romans 8 verse 1, therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Your freedom comes from within, not from anyone else's validation. At this moment, it's no longer about the battles you fought or the pain you endured. Those were simply parts of the process, not the defining elements of who you are. You are not the sum of your struggles. You are the product of what you chose to become after them. Just as Thomas Edison refused to accept failure even after countless attempts, you have transformed your obstacles into stepping stones. Your true identity is now defined by your ability to choose your path, not by what others imposed upon you. Every step you take from this point on is a conscious creation of your own existence. You are not waiting for the world to give you purpose. You are the one who defines it. The freedom you've gained doesn't come without sacrifice. When you break the limits imposed upon you, you realize there are no maps, no paths left to follow. The world was made for those who accept their cages, for those who follow prescribed rules without question. But you have outgrown that world. You can no longer pretend not to see the truth. Just as the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass broke free from slavery and created his own destiny, you too must walk the path that only you can create. It may be a lonely path and, at times, uncomfortable. But it is also the greatest blessing a person can receive. You now walk a road that few dare to tread. And that makes your very existence a challenge to those still trapped in fear. Those who have not yet awakened will want to hold you back. Some will not understand why you continue to move forward, while others will try to drag you back into the old ways. But you can no longer pretend to be something you are not. You can no longer shrink yourself to fit into the expectations of others. This is not just about rejecting their limitations. It's about fully accepting who you are and stepping into the fullness of your purpose. The journey of the chosen one is often solitary, not because you are meant for loneliness, but because the truth you carry is not for everyone. Just as John the Baptist's mission was to prepare the way for Jesus, his journey was solitary and misunderstood, yet essential. Matthew 3 verses 1 to 3, you too carry a truth that many are not yet ready for. That is both the burden and the blessing of your path. And now, you have arrived at a place where you no longer seek a throne. You have become the kingdom itself. You do not need to look for external validation because you carry something the world cannot grant. You have transcended the chains of doubt and fear. What others see as a prison, you now recognize as your freedom. So, what will you do with this newfound freedom? Will you continue to walk the path you've created, knowing it's yours to define? The time has come to shape your reality and to break free from the confines that once held you. This is your moment. What will you create with it? And here is the secret no one ever told you. The strength of the chosen one is not in fighting the system, but in transcending its influence. True power does not lie in reacting to what was done to you, but in moving forward without allowing it to define you. Can you feel it? Whatever tried to bind you no longer has dominion over you. The chains that once weighed you down dissolve at the slightest touch, for they were forged by fear, and fear no longer dwells in your soul. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were thrown into the fiery furnace yet emerged unscathed, Daniel 3 verse 30, you too have walked through the fire and come out refined, not consumed. This is the moment when reality bends to your presence. The doors that were once impassable begin to open, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Have you noticed how the limitations that once seemed unbreakable now seem insignificant in the light of your transformation? The impossible was never a truth, just a limit someone accepted before you. And when this truth settles deep within you, something subtle but irreversible happens. You no longer seek revenge. No longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. The need for validation disappears because you have become your own source of power. Just like King David, who was anointed to be king long before he ascended to the throne, you too have been called for greatness. And now, you walk in the authority of your own purpose. 1 Samuel 16 verse 13. The chosen one does not need to shout to be heard. They do not need to justify themselves to be recognized. They walk with the silent certainty of someone who has faced their inner battles and emerged victorious. This is your new essence. A force that does not need permission to exist. Can you feel that shift in how you carry yourself? It's as if your very being emanates power. Those who once underestimated you now feel discomfort in your presence. You haven't just changed your energy, you've transformed the very structure of the space you occupy. Just like the Apostle Paul, who, despite persecution and trials, remained steadfast and powerful in his mission, Philippians 4 verse 13, you too now move with a presence that cannot be ignored. And though this transformation is liberating, it can also be overwhelming. There are moments when you wonder if the journey ahead is too great, if the force within you is a burden too heavy to bear. But in those moments, something within you whispers the truth. You would not have been called to this battle if you weren't capable of winning it. Just as Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane prayed for strength to carry out the task before him, Matthew 26 verse 39, you too are equipped with everything you need to endure and succeed. Nothing you faced has been wasted. Every tear, every wound, every night of solitude has shaped you into the person you are destined to become. And now that the truth has been revealed, you know there is no turning back. The past has crumbled behind you, and the only direction left is forward. What was once a road full of uncertainty is now the clear path you were meant to walk. The world may have tried to hold you in the past, but you have moved beyond it. Your power no longer comes from what you've endured, but from what you've chosen to become after it all. What will you create with this new freedom? Will you continue to shrink, to fit into a world that doesn't understand you? Or will you boldly walk forward, knowing that your transformation has prepared you to lead? The choice is yours. And the time is now. But where does this road lead? This is the question that torments those who awaken. It is the question that those who have spent their lives following a pre-written script, a well-trodden path, are terrified to face. But the chosen one is different. You don't have the luxury of following an already set path. There are no maps. No shortcuts. No guarantees. You walk between worlds, between who you once were and the new entity emerging within you. It's in this space that doubt will rise, and uncertainty will try to creep in. But then, something becomes clear. The journey was never about reaching a destination. It was about becoming the path itself. You are both the traveler and the road. You no longer need directions because you've become the compass. Just as Jesus spoke in Matthew 7 verse 7. Ask, and it will be given to you, seek, and you will find, knock, and the door will be opened to you. You realize that the answers you seek have always been within you. And when this truth settles deeply into your soul, something inside you awakens. You can feel it, the change in your presence, the way the world around you responds differently. The barriers that once surrounded you lose their meaning because now, you walk as one who knows. You know that you never needed anyone's permission to exist. You know that you were never alone. Those who came before you, your ancestors, your guides, still echo in your blood, still whisper in your bones. You can feel that connection to something greater. Something ancient. Something the world has long forgotten, but that has never died within you. Like Moses, who was chosen to lead the Israelites despite his own doubts, you now understand that your purpose has been woven into the fabric of your very being, Exodus 3 verse 10. The world may have tried to silence that calling. But it has always been there, waiting for you to remember. And for the first time, you understand the true meaning of being a chosen one. You begin to feel that the time of the sleepers is running out. The world as we know it is crumbling. But few notice it. Do you feel it too? It's not just in the external changes, the shifts in the environment, but in the invisible vibration around you. Something within you knows that we are on the brink of a great shift. A profound transformation. As the Apostle Paul once said, "For we know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time." Romans 8 verse 22. This moment is pregnant with change. And you are part of its unfolding. At this moment, a truth imposes itself upon you. The chosen one does not fear change. They anticipate it. While others run from the storm, you walk toward it, understanding that certain destructions are not an end, but a rebirth. Just as a seed must break open to sprout and grow, what the world calls destruction is often the very beginning of something new. The world may see chaos, but you see opportunity for transformation. When the walls of Jericho fell after Joshua's command, Joshua 6 verse 20, they didn't just crumble. They opened the path for a new beginning. You too walk toward the storms, knowing they are part of your divine unfolding. Everything around you is reorganizing. And those destined to awaken now feel the call in their souls. Have you noticed it? There is a growing awareness, a stirring deep within, as if the very fabric of reality is calling to those who are ready to rise. But this journey comes with a price. Solitude becomes inevitable. Not because solitude becomes inevitable. Not because you are cursed to walk alone, but because your energy can no longer be diluted in the ordinary. Empty conversations, shallow connections, and distractions no longer fulfill you. Can you sense how your energy has shifted? You may notice people walking away, not out of disdain, but because your evolution forces them to confront how stagnant they remain. It's not that they don't like you. It's that they are not ready to face the transformation you embody. Just as Jesus faced rejection from his own town, who couldn't accept the truth he carried, Mark 6 verse 4, you too may find that not everyone can understand the depth of your transformation. Some will resist your light. They will try to dismiss it, to ignore it, because it challenges their comfort zone. Others will reject it outright, too afraid of what it represents. But there will also be those who, upon seeing your awakening, will feel something stirring within them. They won't be able to explain it. But they will feel it. Your light will ignite something within them that has been dormant for far too long. Just like when the early Christians, led by the Apostle Peter, attracted those who were ready to embrace the new way, Acts 2 verses 38 to 39, you will become a beacon for those ready to awaken. You are not just walking for yourself, you are lighting the way for others. And with every step, you move closer to understanding this truth. You are no longer a part of the system. You are here to break it open and transform it. You will not walk this road alone, because those who are meant to walk with you will find their way to you. Together, you will create the new world that is waiting to emerge. What will you do with this power you carry? What will you create with the light that now burns within you? The journey ahead is yours to shape. You do not carry just your own story. You carry the echo of those who have not yet found the courage to rise. Have you ever felt the weight of this? Knowing that your journey is not only about your own transformation, but also about paving the way for others who are still in the dark. This is the fear of the ancients. They never feared just your awakening. They feared what would happen when you realized the magnitude of your impact. A chosen one who rises doesn't merely change their own life. They alter everything around them. They do not just break the cycle of their existence. They dismantle the very lies that sustain a world built on illusions. Think of how Martin Luther King Jr. stood against the status quo, and in doing so, reshaped the social fabric of an entire nation, inspiring generations to come. When a chosen one rises, they become a force that cannot be controlled. That is why they tried to bind you, tried to convince you that you were small, unworthy, that you would never go far. But it's too late now. You have seen through the veil of their illusions. You can no longer be erased, no matter how hard they try. Every step you take now echoes like thunder, shaking the very foundations of what they once thought could hold you down. The psalmist says in Psalm 18 verse 39, "You armed me with strength for battle, you humbled my adversaries before me." This strength you carry now is not just for you, it is for the generations that will look to you as a beacon of what is possible. The call pulsing within you is louder than ever before. It is no longer a whisper, it is a truth, growing like a rising sun in your soul. What once held you back in fear now dissolves because you have understood, there is nothing left to hold you back. You are free, not just in spirit but in action. You are no longer trying to escape the storm, you have become the storm itself. You are the force of nature that cannot be denied. Like the story of Jesus calming the storm in Mark 4 verse 39, you have shifted from being overwhelmed by the storms of life to becoming the one who commands the winds and waves. Your very presence now commands attention. The obstacles that once seemed insurmountable now fall before you. The world will no longer impose its limitations on you because you have realized that you are the one who decides your fate. And now that you know this, you understand that you never needed anyone's permission to exist. You came to reclaim what was always yours, not by seeking approval from the world, but by stepping fully into your own power. You do not ask for space, you create your own path. Just as Joshua did when he led the Israelites into the promised land, declaring, "As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord," Joshua 24 verse 15, you are here to carve out your destiny. And in doing so, you create the space for others to follow. But there is one final test that awaits you: what will you do with this power you now possess? The chosen one is not just someone who rises, they are someone who decides what to do with their strength. It is tempting, in moments of power, to get lost in the transformation, to be hypnotized by your own awakening. Just as the disciples were astounded by the power within them after they were filled with the Holy Spirit, Acts 2 verse 4, you too may be tempted to rest in the exhilaration of your newfound power. But this journey was never just about you. It has always been about the legacy you will leave behind, the world you will shape with the strength you now hold. It's about whether you will use this power to uplift, to create, to lead, or whether you will let it be lost in personal gain. The world is waiting for you to step into your full role. You've been prepared, tested, and now you are ready to lead. What will you create with this power? Will you rise and change everything around you, or will you fall back into the shadows you have so bravely emerged from? The choice is yours, and the time to act is now. As you stand in the power of your awakening, one thing is clear: your journey has just begun. The curse that was meant to bind you for 1,000 years has now become the very fuel that propels you forward. You didn't just survive the trials that were set before you. You have transcended them, transformed them into power, and emerged stronger than ever. The destiny they tried to impose on you has turned to ash. And now, the very fear that once pursued you now fears what you have become. But this is not just about surviving or overcoming. It's about stepping into your true power, embracing your divine purpose, and recognizing that you were always meant for greatness. The ancients foretold of this moment, the moment when you, the chosen one, would rise and awaken the others. Now it is up to you to decide: will you go back to silence, or will you use your voice to awaken others who are still trapped in the darkness? True power is not in domination but in inspiration. A chosen one may be feared, but when you awaken others, you become immortal in a way that no force on this earth can ever touch. Your power is in your ability to light the way for others, to show them that the chains that once held them can be broken. You walk between times, carrying the truth that cannot be erased. Your existence challenges the world's perception of what is possible. And if this message resonates with you, then you know there are others out there who need to hear this too. The world needs to see that the chosen ones have risen. Share this message with those who are still lost and searching. Leave a like below to signify your commitment to your own journey of awakening. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. This is only the beginning of a much greater story, and together we will go further than we ever dreamed possible. In the comments, write, "I rise," to seal your commitment. This is your declaration to the universe that you are ready for the next step in your journey. Every chosen one who rises creates a ripple effect of light, guiding those who are still in the dark. As you rise, you empower others to do the same. If you feel led to support this mission, please consider donating through Super Thanks. Your generosity helps keep this message of hope and empowerment alive. Whether you choose to donate or not, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your presence, your energy, and your willingness to rise are a blessing to this world. Know that God sees your heart, and He will continue to bless you abundantly. The next step of your journey is waiting for you. Watch the video on the screen and continue to awaken to who you truly are. Your destiny is greater than you can imagine, and the world is ready for you, ready for your light, your strength, and your voice. Stay ready, stay empowered, and always remember that you are a chosen one destined for greatness. Until next time, may God bless you abundantly and may His light continue to guide your every step.